How's everybody doing today? Welcome into another episode of On the Wire with King of the Hill Sports. I'm Matt Mods, and this week we will be looking ahead to week number 9. We're trying something a little bit different today. I'm using my podcast studio. Let's just jump right into how we did in week number 8. I won in 2 of my 3 leagues this week, moving my records in all 3 leagues to 7-1, first place, 7-1, second place, and 6-2, second place, technically. We're chugging along. Through 8 weeks, my combined record in 3 leagues is 20-4. We lead the league in points in 2 of them. In my league where I'm in second place, my team put up 175 points this week, but we did lose Stefon Diggs to an ACL injury. Potentially. Not official yet. But the good news is, I listened to my own advice that I give everybody, and I already picked up Cedric Tillman in all 3 of my leagues last week. So I might suggest him again this week, but he's not available in my league because I already own him in all of my leagues. Good potential replacement. Also, Diontae Johnson needs to get traded because I also own him in 2 of my leagues, and that would just be great right now. Alright, let's get into it. This is Who Is on the Wire, headed into week number 9. Let's start with quarterbacks. Now, of the quarterbacks on this list, I'm not really focused on too many of them. I would say, out of everybody here, maybe Matthew Stafford now I would like to take a good look at. Last week, against Minnesota, one of the top-ranked defenses still in the NFL, 24.6 fantasy points, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. He has Cooper Kupp back. He has Puka Nacua back. What's going to stop Matthew Stafford from putting these numbers up week after week against the likes of Seattle, Miami, New England, Philly, terrible, New Orleans, oof. We are not going to take a look at Anthony Richardson, but let's jump down to Jameis Winston. And what do we have to say about Jameis? Jameis just loves to sling the football. No interceptions, probably the biggest surprise of the day. 41 pass attempts, 334 yards, and 3 touchdowns. All of the Browns wide receivers are also greatly benefiting from this.
Look at that unwavering faith. Come on. I got that. Come on. You got one opportunity. You got one opportunity. Yeah. What's up, man?
Pick up Jameis Winston. He's probably Jameis Winston and Matthew Stafford are the 2 guys that I'm really focused on here. I'm not too worried about adding anybody else. No Dak Prescott, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, all of his wide receivers are hurt now. Let's move on here to running back, where there's still a very bare landscape. Honestly, I'm not adding anybody. I don't want to mention anybody, but just for the sake of throwing a name out there, Kamani Vidal. I know he had 6 carries for 16 yards, but they are running J.K. Dobbins ragged in Los Angeles. You know, he's injury prone. He's had so many injuries in the past. Gus Edwards is still on IR. Kamani Vidal has a very, very low floor right now, and I don't think he has much of a ceiling, but if anything were to happen to J.K. Dobbins, which I don't want to say odds are it will happen, but there is a chance something will happen just based on his injury history. Kamani Vidal would be the next man up right now, so that's the only reason why I would want to add him. We mentioned Kendre Miller last week, returning from injury, and guess what happened? He returned from injury and he's injured again, so 3 carries for 16 yards, and he's hurt again. So let's just move on to wide receivers because I don't want to talk about anybody else here. Alright, here we are at wide receiver. As I mentioned before, add Cedric Tillman if he is still available in your leagues. He's not available in any of my leagues because I already own him. Over the last 2 weeks since Jameis Winston started playing, Cedric Tillman is second on the team in route participation, 87%. Second on the team in target percentage, 24%. And he leads the team in air yards and end zone targets. 38% of the team's end zone targets. Him and Njoku are eating in the end zone with Jameis Winston at quarterback. But also, somebody else to look at on the Browns, like we said, all the Browns receivers are benefiting from Jameis Winston. Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore, he is what he is, but also 2 weeks of Jameis, 10 points the first week he played. This week, 8 catches for 85 yards on 12 targets. He had a 71% snap share. He led the team with a 30% target share this week, those 12 targets. So Elijah Moore is also eating. Is Jerry Jeudy the number 3 wide receiver right now? Sure seems that way. So add Cedric Tillman if he's available. I guess add Elijah Moore if he's available, begrudgingly. I'm not the biggest Elijah Moore fan, but as long as Jameis Winston is quarterback, Elijah Moore should continue to eat. Maybe not this week against the Chargers, as the Chargers are the number 1 ranked defense against wide receivers this year somehow. So I'm a little bit sus about starting Cedric Tillman myself this week, but we might. Another name to look at toward the top here, Parker Washington on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, through the first 7 weeks, he had 3 catches for 21 yards. In week 8, he had 3 catches for 46 yards, but here's the kicker. Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas, and Gabe Davis all got injured this week. Christian Kirk is done for the year. Brian Thomas is set to miss 2 to 4 weeks, and we don't quite know about Gabe Davis. He's questionable even if Gabe Davis is healthy. He's Gabe Davis. We know what Gabe Davis is. Do we know what Parker Washington is? Also, in week 7, he had a miscellaneous touchdown. Is he a kick returner also, potentially? I was unaware of his game. But I like Parker Washington moving forward simply because he is the last man standing among Jags wide receivers right now, with their top 3 guys all going down in the same week. Another name, another week I'm mentioning him. I mentioned him a couple weeks ago already, Noah Brown. He's getting his rapport up with Jaden Daniels, as we saw on that monster Hail Mary touchdown catch to end the game. That did kind of save his week. 3 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. 6 targets though. 16 fantasy points. First time he officially broke 10 this year. He had a 9.8 a couple weeks ago. He did have an 81% snap share, which was a season high for Noah Brown, and he had an 18% target share, which was, I think a couple weeks ago he had like a 20%. So, he's getting looks. He's getting looks, and now he's out on the field more than ever. And one last name I want to mention here, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. I think he benefits the most from DeAndre Hopkins getting traded. He has touchdowns in 3 straight weeks after not playing for the first 5. Now, he only has 5 catches over those 3 weeks, but he has a touchdown in all 3 of them. And he had a 92% snap share this week. Before DeAndre Hopkins got traded, the most he was on the field was 47% of the snaps. As soon as DeAndre Hopkins gets traded, he was on the field for 92% of the snaps in this game. Now, he was on the field that much, he only had 4 targets and 2 catches. But it's like we always like to say, it's opportunity. He has the opportunity, he's out on the field a lot, he has touchdowns in 3 straight games. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine might be a good little stash going forward. He has potential to do better. I mean, Mason Rudolph is his quarterback. Will Levis might be a downgrade at this point. We'll see what happens. Now, also not a lot to say about tight ends, but we're going to point out a couple names anyway. Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill hasn't really played since week 4, I guess. But Taysom Hill is back from injury. Taysom Hill's already missed 4 games this season. But week 8, he returned. And they are playing the Panthers this week. And just start everybody you could possibly start against the Panthers. If you need to stream a tight end this week, honestly, Taysom Hill might be a good look. They love to use him in fun ways, and the Panthers stink, so they might try and take advantage of that. Taysom Hill's back from injury. Give Taysom Hill a look. But also, Brenton Strange. Evan Ingram is back. Evan Ingram is healthy, but as we said, Christian Kirk injured, Brian Thomas injured, Gabe Davis injured. What do they have? They might run more 2 tight end sets. Brenton Strange only played 39% of the snaps last week, but he had 5 targets, caught all 5 of them for 60 yards. It's 11 fantasy points. He might be on the field more as a tight end simply because they have nobody remaining at wide receiver. And that's it. That's who's on the wire. We're going to end, as we do, at a look at my team in my main league, where we are now 6-2, and I'm in first place in my division, second place overall in the league. Things are looking up. The Landry Longhorns are a-climbing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Matt Mods, this is King of the Hill Sports, and we are on the way to week number 9. That's who is on the wire. Signing out.